again. I would have thought that your emphasis was on the crash of the Ghana cedi. Is that
No.
it? Look at the 5.
I am making a point. Can I first of all talk of the fiscal recklessness
Leading to
the crash. So I have to make the point on the fiscal recklessness as the reason why there was a crash. So, for example, I've listed here the 46 African countries, and you will notice that Ghana has run fiscal deficit in excess of 50% over 4 years. Over 4 years, since 2017. In fact, 2017 we did well, so since 2018. So 2018, Mr. Chairman, you notice that Ghana happened to, our fiscal deficit was higher than most countries. 2018, 2019, 2020. In the year 2020, and this data is coming from World Bank. This data is coming from World Bank. I pick it from the website of the World Bank. World Bank, yes, from the website of the World Bank. The African report. The African report from the World Bank website. So in the year 2020, you could see that apart from Seychelles, almost every country, in fact in the sub-region, no country did fiscal deficit above 7%. In the entire Africa, Ghana was the second highest, apart from Seychelles. Seychelles did 18% of GDP in fiscal deficit. But the previous year, their fiscal deficit was 0.9% of GDP. And then the year before, in the year 2018, their fiscal deficit was 0.2% of GDP. However, in the year after, the year 2021,
attempting to disrupt your train of thought. Keep focus, please. I don't want to, even though I've said that, I'll be happy if you are derailed, but keep focus. When you talk about the physicals and the physical deficit and all of that, let me understand my elementary conception of these matters. This result from what? Expenditure?
It's high expenditure.
High expenditure.
High expenditure.
To do the roads, to do the water, the railways.
Whatever the expenditure is.
What's the name again? The flyover over there. What is the name? Remind me, those who know the flyover.
Honorable Katie. Honorable Katie.
No, let me understand. Is that
this
what
is
we're
macro.
talking about?
I'm talking of high-level expenditure numbers. If you spend more than your means, you crash.
But it's for those things, is that it?
I don't know what it is for, but I'm giving you the headline, the expenditure levels. I don't know what is it for.
Okay.
So,
Chair, I thought,
Chairman.
Chair, I thought when you were outlining the list, you had the National Cathedral, the SDI Secretariat, NAPCO Secretariat, the bloated government, and then corruption. It's all part of it. The Auditor General's report. So it's a tall list.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, first, I'm dealing with high-level macro numbers and what this means to every economy. And if your fiscal part is not sustainable, you eventually find yourself in a debt trap. Unfortunately, Ghana's problem today is debt trap. We have confronted ourselves with unsustainable debt due to the fiscal part we have created since 2018. And that is what I'm trying to explain. Mr. Chairman, every single country in the list that I've provided, 46 sub-Saharan African countries, if you look at the part, Ghana is the worst. In the year 2018, in the year 2020 in particular, when Ghana had to see an election and obviously also confront with COVID, we overspent our budget in excess of 17% of GDP. One would have thought that as soon as you find yourself in such a situation, you will decline. In terms of subsequent year, you have to do fiscal consolidation to catch up. Unfortunately, in the year 2021, instead of us to go through fiscal consolidation, we saw a government that still want to continue with the path of fiscal recklessness, fiscal populism, by creating additional expenditure. And you can see that Seychelles, that actually saw a fiscal deficit of very 18%. The subsequent year, they reduced their deficit by 7 percentage points.
Put it on the, everybody is listening. The whole of Ghana is listening. Why not put it in the layman's term? Because even some of us are struggling. So why not put it in layman's term? Listen, instead of the government cutting down on the development of infrastructure, there was the government still insists on building roads, building this, doing the schools.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Instead of
government cutting down on frivolous expenditures such as National Cathedral and the size of government, they decided to go on
the
overdrive.
luxury charter jet travels. Is the chairman inviting us to provide a list of the reckless expenditure?
I'm not listening to my co-chair on this. He's trying to advise me on the point I'm not taking. But 1 second, No, it's okay. He's a co-chair. He can always come in. No. In the scheme of things, I don't know much about the cathedral, but in the scheme of things, I don't think when you talk about big items that you are talking about, you are trivializing your own argument, because I think in the scheme of things, this doesn't. But anyway, the point I make is that you're talking about
is worth $400 million,
the government
Mr. Chairman, for the record.
On the provisions that I've identified. Put it that way so the ordinary Ghanaian understands what we are talking about.
So, Katie, I think I've made my point. We happen to be the worst among 46 countries in the sub-region in terms of the fiscal part in the last 4 years.
If there are no questions, we can go to the six.
That is the reason why we are where we are.
Oh, okay, that's good. So this is fairly short. If there are no questions, are there questions? Yeah, Doc.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. I think just following your train of thought, would it be possible for the committee to be provided with any documents regarding certain expenditure that you're referring to? You've made reference to the cathedral. You made reference to a few other, yes.
My colleague, the Honorable Okujeto, is the MP for the cathedral, and I'm sure he will do justice with that.
Oh, Chairman, the Honorable Ranking Member has reduced my stature. I want him to add chartered jets as well. Not only National Cathedral, but chartered luxury jet travels. It's also my area of expertise.
So I'm sure the good people of Nocturne will not accept.
Honorable Samuel Kujeto, I think that you are disrupting the flow of evidence to the committee. Honorable Zenato.
Yes, so Chairman, before he continues to the sixth, just for the record of this committee, the Honorable Atuforsen is leading evidence that there is a strong nexus between your fiscal policy, your monetary policy, and the strength of your currency. And that if you do not manage your fiscal well, as is not been managed well by the Minister for Finance, that's why interest rate is going high, and that is why the depreciation of the cedi is going high. So for the record, we are saying that fiscal irresponsibility, unjustified license of government, and its associated expenditure have contributed to these fiscal slippages, which is affecting the performance of the economy. Thank you, Chair.
Well, no, Co-Chair, 1 second. Aaron, we heard all of that. What we didn't hear, though, was any reference to the COVID and to the crash in the international world. We didn't hear about the rise of the dollar. We didn't hear anything about of that nature. Who wouldn't allow you? You have the whole time.
You have been interjecting me every second.
To make sure that you have a free flow. What's your problem? You have all the time. If you want to start again, I asked you specifically, are you done with the 5? You said yes.
No, because you keep interjecting me.
Since when did you become kind of anxious about it?
I know, because you are.
Yeah, so Uncle talks, you shut up, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
Honorable Katie.
Honorable members. Is your question answered? The Honorable Dr. Zenato Rollins.
I just wanted confirmation of the fact that he can furnish the committee with the relevant documents to buttress his point on the issue of financial recklessness.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Co-chair made reference to. I'm not done.
Yeah. I thought she had finished. Yeah.
And the co-chair made reference to infrastructure and mentioned roads and hospitals, and which is. Was it off record?
I wasn't off record. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to do is to have some clarity on specifically what he's referring to, because we need more specifics to be able to make an informed decision and report back to the plenary.
Okay, Honorable Animadu.
No, but now back to council, because I thought he had some objection. Objection or something from council.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think this is the very issue that I was referring to. We are now being invited to ask the proponents to provide more documents. Right. And I think we need to be extremely careful about this. That's all. Thanks.
We will define the nature of the document that we're asking for. We'll try and define it.
As they make reference to documents and tender them, we'll make sure that mandatorily they will be made available to you. I took note of a World Bank report, Africa report, which is not, on the list here. So you do well to tender that document to the committee. Yes, Honorable Animadu, and then Honorable Ahinyefo.
I may associate myself with the question that Dr. Zenato asked, and I would want to draw the proponent's attention to how paragraph 5 is couched. Fiscal recklessness leading to the crash of the city. And I would want to support what she had requested for, that if you can get a detailed expenditure which would lead or point to the committee that the ministry was reckless. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Atufosin.
Chairman, before Atufosin came, this morning when I arrived, Chairman, I shared a proverb with you and Honorable Anyimedu. I said, if you are pounding fufu for a blind man, the best way to assure the blind man that you are not eating the fufu is to be whistling. You have to be whistling whilst you are pounding. Is the city crash or not crash? We have done our whistling.
Mr. Chairman, he's overruled.
Mr. Chairman.
Who had the...
Yes, so yes, they will provide the documents, the figures, the specific expenditure.
Yes. Honorable.
The specific expenses.
I think
for instance, the Honorable Minority Leader earlier on tendered a warrant in respect of the cathedral. That's an expense.
Yes.
And that is part of what build up to the expenditure that you are referring to, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, so that is the nature of the evidence that would want you to tender before the committee.
Mr. Chairman,
very specific.
When you say fiscal recklessness, I mean, it looks as if members are trivializing the issue to just expenditure. Mr. Chairman, fiscal management is a combination of revenue, expenditure, non-tax revenue, and financing. So it's not just expenditure.
I prefer that we
However,
are mindful of our
no,
diction. When you say that we're trivializing...
No, because we are... Okay, I withdraw that. I withdraw that, Uncle. I withdraw that. But we don't need to just concentrate on one leg of fiscal management. My point is that when you run fiscal deficit 4 years in a row, amounting to 56% of your GDP, higher than sub-Saharan African average. In fact, no country among the 46 African countries has run that kind of large fiscal deficit. In quote, you have increased your debt by that magnitude.
Well, you made a point.
So therefore, you don't overspend above your means. If you're a young person, you start life and you don't have money to overspend above your means. That's recklessness.
If there are no questions. Yeah, go.
Yeah, co-chairs, thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. By ground 5, it is categorically stated that Ghana cedi has crashed as a result of recklessness and is the worst performing currency in the world. You have been a deputy finance minister. During your tenure of office in 2016, with particular reference to the exchange rates, cedi to dollar, how much was the rate? And now, what is the exchange rate?
Thank you very much. The Ghana cedi at the time we were leaving office in 2018 at the central bank was 3.9 to 1 cedi in 2016.
In the market, give
In the market is 4.1, some places 4.2. Today, and this is public knowledge, you can get it from the internet interbank. Today, in the interbank, the cedi to the dollar is about 15 cedis. 14.8, 15 cedis, depending. The cedi has depreciated year to date in the last 10 months.
Hold on, my colleague. I think we're getting a bit anxious about this. The question was asked whether there was interjection, whether he cross-examined or something. And then we asked our question for clarification. But if it is, he's happy, he thinks I've come to his age. Now you say that, well, why is Solomon, isn't it? That's why I see you laughing, because I'm helping you out. Yeah, I don't think he's under any responsibility to be kind of answering this sort of question. If we ask for clarification, that is fair. But pointedly, during your time, well, for now, he's not a finance minister and he's not under any sense of motion, So let's be conscious about the question that, well, maybe we overrule that one. Yes.
No, he has answered the question already.
Halfway through it, it's overruled. So.
You don't let me start a question and in between you truncate me.
Listeners
Listeners will not appreciate the point I'm making.
I thought I should overrule it. It's overruled. Yeah. So that answer is expunged. Yes, another question. Thank you. Who else? Yeah.
Chairman, I hear the ranking member list 46 countries which have performed better than Ghana. I want to find out from him whether any of these countries that he listed, their finance minister had to deal with energy sector debts that he inherited when they came into office to manage the affairs of their various countries. I want to know from him whether any of the 46 countries that he's listed had to deal with these huge energy sector debts in those countries.
Some of those countries didn't inherit ESLA, which provided buffer for them to deal with some of the energy sector debt, which ESLA energy sector levy you have even collateralized up to 2035. But Honorable to respond to the other issues.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Chair.
Some of these countries are at war to the level of they have to buy huge ammunitions, and their revenue base has derailed, yet they perform better than Ghana. So, Mr. Chairman, it would be wrong for you to zero in into one item and conclude. If you are to take critical look at these countries, Ghana is far better off than most of these countries that we made reference to in terms of all the economy issues, indicators, and everything. Yet we performed worse than them. So his argument, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully disagree with him because we cannot be a country that is performing worse than a war-torn country.
Isn't it also part of a reflection of their economies? I mean, the level of development in their respective countries, isn't it?
Mr. Chairman, that is why it is wrong for one person to isolate one expenditure. Under the previous administration, we had to contend with single spine. We did not treat it below the line. We contend with a major expenditure single spine that the previous administration inherited from then President Kufuor's government. Yet it was contained and paid for and accounted for appropriately. We had to contend with Dumso. We had to contend with that and did a major investment in Dumso. We did not treat it below the line. So that is not an issue.
Resulted in what
that did not resolve the issue.
Your Dumso and your plans.
So, Mr. Chairman, even the energy payment.
Otherwise, when the chairman is talking, you wouldn't let him complain.
No, because I'm speaking. You have not asked me to stop.
The chairman has the privilege of
just ask me to stop, and I will stop.
So stop.
Okay.
When I finish,
thank you.
Continue.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Chairman.
right. So I have also stopped. So
he said I used only one example. Let me give him an example. Can he tell us any of these 46 countries that their finance minister had to expend huge sums of money to clean their banking sector? Any one, just one.
I prefer that you put it as a suggestion. That isn't the case. That quite a lot of this also went into the cleaning of the distance.
I'll be guided accordingly, Chairman. Very well, very well. And lastly, Chairman, I'm sure that the ranking member of the Finance Committee is very much familiar with the Public Financial Management Act. Act 921. The proponent of the motion. And if I may refer him to section 22 of the Public Financial Management Act, because I heard him say that the fiscal management relates to revenue, expenditure, and financing. Okay, if I may refer to section 22, approval of annual budgets by Parliament. 22.1, Parliament shall, by the 31st of December of each financial year, consider and approve A, the annual budget and the correlative work plan of the government of Ghana for the ensuing financial year. B, the appropriation bill. And C, any other bill that may be required to implement the annual budget. 22.2, the annual budget approved by Parliament takes effect from the first day of January of the ensuing year. Now, having quoted the provision in the law, I want to find out whether the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana in December of 2021 complied with the provisions of this act. And if the Parliament did not comply, would you not agree with me that the failure of the Parliament of Ghana to comply with the provisions of the law has contributed to the fiscal situation that we find ourselves in as a country? Thank you.
Parliament of Ghana, of which you are a member.
Yes.
Honorable member, with all due respect, I think that the question should be overruled. And I say this because the Constitution clearly entrenches the concept of separation of powers. The executive branch of government has its functions clearly stated in the Constitution. The Minister of Finance exercises management of the financial resources of this country on behalf of the President, who under Article 58 is a receptacle of all executive authority. If that authority resolves in any situation of mismanagement, in any situation of fiscal recklessness, the executive branch must take the responsibility. In fact, it is not for nothing that the drafters of the Constitution provided in Article 82(4) of the Constitution that ministers can be censured. If we took the logic of your question to its conclusion, then it means that this exercise, what we are doing today, is an exercise in futility, but it is not.
Not entirely. It seems to be suggesting that Parliament may be a contributory factor in all that.
Chairman, we've taken note. If it's indicting Parliament, let it be. We are individual members of Parliament who have shared our view with you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you permit me, the point that I'm making is this. The provisions of the Public Financial Management Law is clear. Section 22 imposes a duty on Parliament to perform 3 actions by a certain date. Parliament indeed approved the annual budget and correlative work plan of government for 2022.
Honorable
member, the appropriations bill,
member,
but failed to pass the revenue measures.
With all due respect,
implement the budget.
Your question is overruled.
Provision that we all are living witnesses to.
Please take a cue from the chair. Your question is overruled. The witness is not going to answer that question. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Hansard is my witness. I've raised this issue of...
The question is overruled.
Okay, thank you.
Please proceed with your evidence.
Mr. Chairman, I will move on. I'll move on to the next item.
Wait.
The banking sector that I did not answer, so if I can answer that and move on.
Which one is it?
No, he raised an issue whether these countries in question, the 46 African countries, had to contend with the banking sector cleanup.
No, I think we resolved that.
No,
We
it was a
resolved
question.
it.
Mr. Chairman, it's important I answer.
I rephrased it, and then he said he was guided by that, and I think we...
So I shouldn't answer?
Well...
It's important I answer.
Answer to that. He says it's fine. Any other questions? Yes, Sammy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, I will be relying on the special audit conducted by the Auditor General, presented to this House last week. Special audit report on the recoveries made from...
We're not going to allow staff to come from the magicians, whatever. Fiscal, what is this document?
Special audit report. I'm using it to ask a question.
No, where is it? Where is it on this thing?
It's not been tendered in evidence.
People can be pulling staff from wherever and then be asking questions based on that.
No, Chair. I just want you to know that my question has basis.
I didn't think it didn't have a basis.
Proceeding from a report.
Wait a minute. I think we're getting enough of this. 1, 2, 3, up to 17. I think we added a few more to this. Council, we added 1, so that will be 18. Now he has this freshly minted stuff from wherever it was pulled out from, and he's going to add to that. So if you want to stick to the document that we have here, he actually hasn't referred to this. Ato, did you refer to this particular document? You haven't seen it in your life.
but Honorable KTM, Honorable Chair.
Who would agree to KT is fine.
Yes, I think that members are entitled as of right to refer to public documents in order to ask follow-up questions. So he referred to the Joy FM in as a predicate for his question on the reaction of the IMF, and he didn't even tender it. And it was not overruled. Council, you were happy with that. You want to object to this one?
Well,
no,
we don't need to put you. We don't need to put you on the spot.
If the question
Council,
that is about to ask.
Council, hold your breath for a minute. Hold your breath. Put your thing. Why do you want to put him on the spot? You can ask your question without reference to this, can't you?
So, Chair, am I to understand that moving forward, members cannot ask questions because the Honorable Mesa was the first to introduce a foreign material not on the list.
We are not going to do that again. So
yes,
this is the first casualty of that decision.
I hope Chairman is not being biased and unfair. But the question really can still be asked without that document. The matter relating to fiscal recklessness. Will you classify clear cases of wastage? The Auditor General has just retrieved 2.2 billion from wrong pockets. Will you say that those infractions, irregularities, wastage, malfeasance is part of the fiscal recklessness that you are referring to? I just want to be clear.
I think you have a very important point out there. When we say fiscal recklessness, frivolous expenditures are part of the recklessness. Obviously, wastage in the system is part of the recklessness. And malfeasance, things that can be avoided. Some of the reports, when you read them, you ask yourself, what is happening here? So if you have all of this money going down the drain, in the end, it's the taxpayer who have to pick the liability and pay either through taxes or through other means. So it's part of the problem. Fiscal recklessness, I'm only looking at the high-level numbers. How come we have spent so much as a percentage to our GDP or above our tax revenue or total revenue? That, for me, I think is something that we have to immediately flag it if we had known that this is the level of the fiscal deficit that we accumulate. For example, when government had to go through the financial sector cleanup, the way and manner it was done obviously amount to recklessness, because you cannot go to the bond market and borrow Eurobond just to collapse a bank. You don't do that. Because when you use this kind of Eurobond money for this kind of expenditure, when the time comes for payout, you have difficulty in paying out. So when we say fiscal recklessness, it's wastage, is the way and manner the fiscal is accounted for, and the high level of the fiscal. Obviously, if it was high enough and they were aware, they would have taken position to decline. And that is why I made the word fiscal reckless.
Okay, Counsel for the Finance Minister, he has his hand up. Is it in
Chair,
relation to the question?
We just need clarity on the question, because he specifically said the Auditor General has retrieved. So I really want us to understand what he means. How does he situate fiscal recklessness in a situation where he's saying the Auditor General has retrieved? We just want clarity on that.
Okay. Counsel, since you are not part of this process, what I would advise is that you can raise technical legal objections to what is happening, but in terms of asking for substantive clarity of questions that have been asked, you do not have the right before this committee.
I don't understand.
No.
Why can't he?
No, because Honorable Co-Chair, with all due respect, the Honorable Finance Minister will have a turn at this table. And if he does, he will now have the opportunity to make...
he would have to contend with. And if he doesn't understand through his counsel, you mean they couldn't see clarification?
Yes, that is what that's what I'm saying. What? No. What? No. I think we. No counsel has been. No question has been.
I think he's agreed that we can clarify.
Yeah, Chair, I can happily clarify. The Auditor General is reporting that they have set out to retrieve 4.7 billion.
Sorry, which report are you referring
4.7 billion. The report you don't want me to refer to.
Well, so why would you refer to a report that I don't want you to refer?
So we are discussing fiscal recklessness.
Yeah, sure. So
without
reference to this.
And my question, Chair, you know that I can never be intimidated.
I never intend to intimidate the non-tongue maestro. I don't intend to. So make your point with that reference to this.
So the question is very clear in my mind. Wastage, malfeasance, financial irregularities. The Auditor General is in pursuit of 4.7 billion. He's retrieved 2.2 billion. 2.5 billion remain out there that he's in search of. And I just wanted to find out if that is part of fiscal recklessness, the fiscal recklessness that you speak of. Does it include malfeasance, corruption, public funds in wrong pockets? That's my question.
Sami, thank you very much. I think it's a fact that if we say fiscal recklessness, it includes all of that. The key question here is, are those recklessness done only at the Ministry of Finance? I do not believe it. I think it is the economy-wide, it's the government-wide, and most ministers of finance are corporate. You can't blame only the minister responsible for finance. But the PFM Act empowers the minister responsible for finance to deal with it, and that is why the PFM Act makes more or less the Minister of Finance the most powerful minister. So he's clothed with all the necessary legal framework to confront his colleagues. So if he fails to do that, obviously he has engaged in fiscal recklessness. And
wait a minute. That
has to be dealt with.
Wait a minute. So he's not here because he's caused all this mess, but because he hasn't really held those people, he hasn't imprisoned quite a lot of those people responsible. Is that the point you're making?
The fiscal powers are vested in the finance minister.
But effectively being held to account for...
Of course, if the Minister of Roads overspent and the Minister of Finance pays, it is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance, even though the act was committed by the Minister of Roads, because the PFM Act empowers that only the Minister of Finance that can give the financial clearance for the minister to engage in that act. So whether and if the minister fails to do that, the Minister of Finance can deal with him.
It isn't the minister who is responsible for this; it's the whole economy,
it's government-wide.
The gaboodle of it that makes this whole thing what it is.
Well, except that, Mr. Chairman, if you had allowed me to reference that report at page 35, you see that the Ministry of Finance has a 1.6 billion CD question to answer there.
You have another question?
So the Finance Minister is not particularly exonerated.
Do you have another question?
In the matter. Yes, I have another question.
Let me make this point.
I think let's make some progress.
I have not exonerated the Minister of Finance.
Issue. No,
I've said he has all the powers under the PFM Act to confront it when it happens. His failure will mean that he has to carry the cross.
Yeah, my final question, Chair, on the ground 5. The Honorable Ranking Member of Finance made reference to using bonds for the financial sector cleanup. My perspective is quite different. I want to find out, in terms of the policy choices that were available to the finance minister and to the government, the route they chose, was that what was in the national interest, so far as our fiscal management of the economy is concerned? The policy choice, that route which cost us, I don't know, the figures keep changing in this house. I don't know if it's 25 billion or whatever it is now. What do you have to say about those policy choices so far as fiscal recklessness is concerned?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I
the
think
Honorable
Honorable Atuforsen does not run the finance ministry. For him to be able to answer this policy-related question, I strongly believe that. It's yes.
It's
Any views?
policy choices. We are discussing fiscal recklessness.
Chairman, I have a strong view on the way and manner.
What you did 6 years ago,
The
which
way and
would
manner
have abated
the
the
financial
situation.
sector cleanup was conducted. I have a strong view on that. The Chairman, countries had to contend with banking sector issues. There have been best practices on how the financial sector cleanup could have been managed. In the UK, they had to go through similar when Royal Bank of Scotland and Lloyds Bank had to be bailed out. In the end, they paid back. Ghana decided to go on a route where the burden on the banking sector cleanup was transferred to the taxpayer. I think that was wrong. I think that Ghana could have decided to go for other ways in dealing with the banking sector issues instead of what they did. That was a wrong policy choice.
Okay, thank you. The Honorable are here for.
Honorable Ato, you said you do not borrow money for banking sector cleanup. How does this amount to recklessness on part of the finance minister?
If I'm the Minister of Finance, there's no way I was going to borrow money to collapse a bank. I wouldn't do that. So that is recklessness.
No, that is his answer. That's a witness's answer. So, Honorable Senator, do you have a question? Or Honorable Yimadu? Okay.
Let me do my last one, then we decide on the next one. I thought, Sabi, you were talking about bonds and all the other things. He himself was talking about bonds and other things. That's right. Reason there. Ato, was ever any bonds raised in the year 2015? Harud, why are you laughing? Don't anticipate me. 2015, which raised about 1 billion for the country, $1 billion. Recall that? 2015. Some bonds were raised, and
of course,
2015.
Yes.
You recall that? And it's the case that your interest on it was about 10.75%.
Mr.
Arun,
Chairman,
why do you keep on laughing? Coupon, I hear that. That's 10.75. Is that it?
correct.
And it is suggested that it's the most expensive whatever which was ever raised in the country. Is there anything to it?
I disagree.
Okay. But you know what I'm talking about.
I disagree. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. When there was a World Bank guarantee of 400 million, and then there was the interest payment of 750 million.
That is why I said I
and
disagree.
And you were still having to pay 1 billion, which is all what the finance minister has had to be paying, which has led to the figures that you identified out there. You disagree with everything.
Mr. Chairman, the previous
You disagree with everything, don't
I
you?
disagree because the previous
I haven't asked for answer. You disagree with everything.
I'm making a point that this administration
why
within
not
4 years,
answer my question? You disagree or you don't disagree?
I disagree with you. And
Full stop.
I'm giving you further and better particulars.
I'm not interested
But
in
you
your
will have
further-
to need it. You will need it. Because this administration, within a period of 4 years, had borrowed from the Eurobond market in excess of $12 billion US, as against the previous administration that borrowed $4 billion US. So we are talking of how reckless it is, and that's why I have to give you those information.
No,
Yeah,
it wasn't the quantum. My interest wasn't the quantum. The 1 billion, I wouldn't have thought it's so significant in terms of the figures. I'm talking about what you call the coupon rate. Your 7.5% return on that and all the World Bank guarantees and all of that. That's what I'm talking about.
So can I explain that?
No, you can't. It will
answered
my question.
He
said he disagrees.
No,
He
it
said
will be
disagrees.
it will be grossly unfair to curtail his answer.
All right.
I think it's important because you are comparing.
I will allow you. Go on. Let me hear you.
Mr. Chairman, bond prices depend on the time of issuance, and there are so many factors that account for bond prices. If you want to compare bond prices, obviously you have to look at the real interest, how much you are paying. For example, recently, government had to issue zero coupon bond. And the question you have to ask yourself, so what is the real interest rate of the real coupon of the zero coupon bond? Simple put, I borrow today, I get paid all my interest, and tomorrow, when the time comes, I will end up paying only the principal. What is the real interest? I think it is more expensive than the 2015 bond, and that is my answer.
And Chairman, just there on the banking sector, the Honorable Atuforsen and the proponents of the motion were strongly arguing that there is an opportunity cost to an expenditure of 23 billion for a banking sector cleanup. If you recall, the Association of Bankers called on Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa at the time and said that some interjection of some liquidity of some amount not exceeding 1 billion, if it at the time, and we'll tender it again tomorrow. Daily Graphic reported this in their front page. They said if we got 500 million, you could save a number of these banks. Now, you said no, categorical, that you would not help them with any liquidity intervention. You ended up spending 23 billion in a clean up, where they said that many of them, if they got a certain modicum of support from government, so instead of spending 23 billion, and people have gone home comfortable with people's savings and investment, that must be of concern to you, Chairman, that you refuse to support those who are in need. Don't forget the families who have died as a result of they being asked to go home because once the bank is not working, mother and child, wife and husband in crisis. So you refuse 500 million, 1 billion to save the life of some of these financial institutions, and you are happily saying that we should celebrate you after spending 23 billion, which you are not prepared to report. That's what he's emphasizing on, because this was below the line. So if you left out banking sector expenditure of 23 billion, who should bear the brand for it? Same public, same taxpayer. Those are the contradictions we are pointing out to. Thank you.
We'll come back to the banking thing. Let me, for sake of completeness, just recite out the nature of the point I'd have. On a chair.
Yeah, Chair, I raise this point of order, so we will be guided. I thought that the proponents are to make out their case, and we will give an opportunity, a fair opportunity, to the Honorable Finance Minister to respond, and that the tenure of the Honorable Atuforsin when he was Deputy Finance Minister is not what is. Yeah, but continuously the questions coming up about bonds he raised, it's as though he is under scrutiny.
Yeah, for example, the question of the bond that I'm raising, not particularly about his tenure of office, about the fact that a particular bond of this nature was raised in the country. It just coincides that was at a time when he was in office. Well, yeah, 2015. So if it happens to be the case that he was in office at that time, so be it. But I'm not putting it to him that he's done anything wrong or anything. I'm asking for clarification. Indeed, I was going to do further clarification. And as the chairman talking, you don't debate with the chairman. Block his light, block the light so that he's not able to speak. Let's just listen. Listen, this is what I was going to say. See, it is here. It is some message at part for whatever. That's all right. Chairman have some liberties, you know. One of the most outrageous bonds out there must be a $1 billion lent to Ghana in 2015 at 10.75 interest with a 400 million guarantee from the World Bank. A buyer of the bond in 2015 is already guaranteed to get 1.15 billion, and they are still owed 1,860 million of interest payment. A simple matter of you understand this better than I do. You know about this and whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Chairman, the person who sent the
calm
tweet.
down, all of you calm down to go on.
The person who sent the tweet did a follow-up tweet the next day, and I thought you can read that one as well. Yes, on the same one. So the same person. This is a tweet.
Funny enough, your uncle's glasses sees just one point; it doesn't see the other one. You know. So yes. So what is your comment on this one?
My answer is that there's a follow-up tweet by the same person.
I'll have a look.
And if you can read it, it will clarify your position.
I'll try and then read.
Yes.
Very well, Honorable Ahienfo, you have your hand up.
Chairman, co-chairman. My issue is that what is good for Peter is good for Paul.
That is not always true. It's not always true.
Asked a question based on 2016 exchange rate figures as compared to the exchange rate now. Chairman overruled this particular question. So I least expect my chairman to go contrary to his own rules.
We don't play the same rules. We don't play by the same rules. The chairman have their own rules and the members have their own rules.
No,
yes,
the rules are the same.
Massa.
So, Chairman, expunge that from your own record.
Counsel, are you that brave? Go on,
to actually buttress his point, the reference that Okujo-Tuablako was making in the auditor's report.
Blocked by chairman.
Blocked by chairman. I believe that if we're to do our job properly and members of parliament are asking questions and making reference to documents that are within the public domain, they should be permitted.
When we get to the floor, he would have it. I'll keep it till we get to the floor.
Chairman, no, on the official records, it must show that the reference that he made to the document, because you're making reference to something we don't know. You said chairman are allowed.
Yeah, sure. Chairman are allowed.
Honorable Japan also made mention to something online. This is a document that is an official document.
I appreciate the point you're making. Consistently, lawyers of the finance minister are complaining that, see, originally when they came, we almost aborted this, and sanity broke out, and we decided to go the way we are going. They were saying that we should restrict them to the particular documentation which you were going to buttress the charges that you had made. Which for me made a lot of sense. But in the end, it looked like it was getting a bit difficult. So we decided that we weren't going to allow all of us open reign to just read in this, bring this document, bring document. We listed about 17 of the documents. Suddenly he puts
Chairman,
one out
that
of his
is
hat.
for the proponents of the motion. But if members are questioning certain things and can make reference to
When we
documents,
come back to do the other ones, I'll give you the document and you can raise
you
it.
must,
It is
you must,
concluded now.
you must indicate whether it's being allowed or not. Because for the
Yeah.
record, the council of the minister raised the question about where the document, the information Sami was referring to was from. And it's from a document that you're refusing to allow as evidence.
Yeah.
I'm not changing my mind on this one. So
No,
let's see what we do.
yeah, with all due respect, co-chairman,
But,
I
Chairman,
still
Chairman, don't get involved in this, co-chairman. Don't get involved. Let us
yeah,
deal
I
with
think
this.
I think it's
We are almost
important,
completed
especially
with the 5. We are at 6.
yes.
We are 6 and 7. Let's make a decision on what we
honorable
make it.
honorable members, we may have to take a vote on the issue whether and the extent to which we can rely on public documents. You know, well, let's see how or how.
Your license, the license.
Okay, the honorable Haruna Idusu, you have your hand up.
Chairman, I wanted to do a quick one on 3, and it's on item 3 because
We're going back to 3.
yes,
We're wondering what to do with the 6 and 7.
no, he will conclude on that. 3 is very straightforward. I'll deal with it. Illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore accounts in flagrant violation of Article 176 of the 1992 Constitution.
Why do you think that's going to be fairly short? Let's decide on what to
I'm
do.
the one giving the evidence, and I'm
Wait a
assuring
minute,
you that
Arun,
it's a short
bear with
evidence.
us. There's this suggestion that we may want to go for a break or whatever. We
No.
had thought that, wait a minute. We had thought that the only items outstanding were the 6 and 7. If you add that one to it, we're going to have 3 more items. What is the
No,
sense
that
of
one,
the
there is
committee?
this $100 million.
Sorry?
Standing in Jubilee Holding, which was not paid into
We
the
can do 20
consolidated
minutes for
fund
the remaining 2.
against Section 3 of the PRM.
See, I'm
Act-
talking and
Act
he's not
815.
listening and he's going on and on and on and on and on. The 3 and then the other ones.
The honorable Atuforsen, are you suggesting that you can do the 3 and the remaining ones in 20 minutes? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I indicated that
What's the problem?
my job is to take you through item 4, 5, 6, and 7. So far, I've done 4 and 5. 6 and 7, I can lump them together and give you one.
We are hearing medical conditions why people should have break. So let's take a decision. He says it's
Now,
He says it's going. Yeah, he says it's going. Yeah. So what do we do? We can do. Is it a sense of the committee that we break for 1 hour and come back at 4 o'clock? Sorry, let's get it right. I can see through. Two hours.
No, 1 hour is okay. Honorable Minority Leader, I crave your indulgence. 1 hour. 1
He
hour.
was saying that we could finish it in 20 minutes.
Yes,
But there are
and
those
then-
who said that they need to get break.
Yes. Very well, very well. Thank you very much. Council.
4
We
o'clock.
crave your indulgence. At 4 o'clock, the committee will resume sitting. So, honorable members, the committee will adjourn for 1 hour and to return at 4 o'clock p.m. in the forenoon.
Minianum, some of us transfer from Dimupa. Na yare ahuru bi enam aduane bi ayedie so amie nya no. Ompese wonye bia. E de na obese se odidim kakra. Na ne yenim da. Ya de bi te say diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, cholesterol, ene kase mroso de keka ho nyina no. Se yetimi nya firi nuane bi mu te say banku, fufuo, dokono, ampesie ene de keka ho no. Enti na ase pa enkoma True Green Foods. Ya wode ho akobo Green Health Pharmacy ene functional medicine center ho. Se wodi nuane bia carbohydrates no eye low. Yeah, very healthy. Na de biokran say what diabetes you uni bio. Udi a uni problem. Me musa chire. If you say wudi True Green Foods for me no. What experience?
Ma pom di na sipi. Me sugar na ehuri koso tenten no.
I told you
ma. Medi fufu benku dokono tuzafi eba eni amala. Omuni ane na meka. Se wo kan enche
Dosi mixed flour, Alka mixed flour, Fufu mixed flour, Yummy mixed flour, Kajma porridge, Alter oats, Better oats, Clean oats, and the baking mixed flour. True Green Foods so there. Start to send me anymore. Who counts what? Sima na ben.
Hello, love.
Gary, do you have Mommy's parcel for her big day?
The shipping company says it will take 1 month.
A month? Ah, Gary, use Rapid.
Rapid?
Rapid courier ships from the United States to Ghana and 9 other African countries within 3 to 5 days. Log on to rapidgroup.com, buy, ship to us, and we deliver right to your doorstep.
That fast?
Yes, that's Rapid for you. Can you sign this?
I thought you only ordered Mommy's parcel.
No, I ordered a few car parts too.
Are you too busy to shop? We will shop for you. Rapid also has a luggage delivery service, so you can make that extra luggage and we will deliver at the lowest rate. Locate Rapid Courier on the Spinters Road off the Lekma Road.
Rapid Courier, just shop, we deliver. Enjoy.
Malata African market, and I'm Papa. African market. Order for so bronze ha. Now open African market. Papa didra. Mwakuma to yemu dia. Malata African market. Edemu sronko. Smoked fish, meat, dry fish. Sao kenki, rice, yam, fufu flour ni nuani ahodo e free Africa. Afei, ye want to ma papa. Bo wire kente, adamasi kente. Ahweni ahodo. Ani nioma bebre. Na ubenya wo Malata African market. Shushu ya chi akwan ene number e wo screen so. Malata African market. African market mu King Kong. Malata African market. And I'm Papa. African market. African market.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.